Welcome to Between Three Witches, where we talk about witchcraft in plain sight, which is everyday magic, lived honestly, and hosted by us, three witches. Me, Gayle the Witch Next Door.
Me, Vikkie, the Wheelie Green Witch.
And me, Anon, the anonymous witch.
We all walk different paths and have different levels of experience, but we share a deep respect for the craft as it is actually practiced, and not the dramatized version that people expect. Today's episode, we dive into talking about curses, hexes, and the ethics of witchcraft, which is going to be epic. But before we do that, how have we all been since our last episode? And can you believe we're on episode 4 already?
What have we been up to? Lots of builders, lots of goings on, lots of dust. And not much platform stuff actually, but I will be back.
Yeah, I seen your little note saying I'll be back soon, and everybody going, we miss you. But that's
Yeah,
life's got to take priority.
life
Uh,
took over a bit, so
yeah, but it's been fun, right?
it's been really good, really, really good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
tiring, really good, and we're getting there. So it's all very cool.
There must be something in the air because my work has been absolutely brutal this week. Absolutely brutal. I'm still managing to squeeze in all my social media stuff and keep in contact with everybody, and which is super important to me because I think I need that balance. But yeah, my real life work has been really, really tough. But hopefully I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel with some of that next week. But in terms of what I've been up to, just that really. I've got my drum birthing next week, which I'm really
Oh,
excited about. I've been waiting for
ooh,
a couple of months for that. So by the time we record the next podcast, I'll be able to tell you a little bit about how that went. And then I also went last week to, and it is a bit of a modern practice. So I don't know what you two think about this, but I went to a dragon meditation session. So it was quite
Ooh.
new age spirituality, but the energy of the dragon really surprised me. And since then, the dragon has been showing up everywhere. So,
Yeah.
Anon, I know you'll be very pleased about that being Welsh, but it's not something I've ever worked with before. So, yeah, so I'm kind of going down a bit of a dragon energy route and trying to work that back into the roots of my practice, which feel much more grounded in earth magic and seasonal kind of shifts and how that translates. Because, like I said, it's quite new age, but I really resonated with it. It was quite fascinating, but it was also in Avebury, which is energetically quite powerful. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling, but that's what I've been up to. Dragon meditation, birthing a drum next week, so keeping
sounds
that
far better than
occupied.
builders.
Yeah, and you've got builders and thinking about cursing and hexing, perhaps. Has it been that stressful? Or sure,
It,
we'll come
it
to that
nearly
in a
has.
second.
Yes, it nearly has.
What about you then, Anon? What have you been up to?
Well, I love that for you. Becoming a little draconian but there in the corner. Nice. I love working with dragon energy, unicorn energy. I'm in. But yeah, there's definitely been an energetic shift over the last couple of weeks. I've just seen it. I've felt it. It's been a bit heavy. People on edge almost, but I can't believe we're on episode 4. I think that's brilliant and well done, Gayle, for doing all the editing in the background. And thank you so much for everything that you're
Oh,
doing.
oh, thanks. Well, I do the editing, but that is on purpose so I can edit out the bits where I mess up. I'm
I
not
won't say thank you
stupid.
then. No.
Yeah, no, don't thank me, honestly. But you're right though, the energy has been what I mean, we've got Mercury retrograde, which I know I always go on about. It's a big thing for me. Oh, actually, I won't even go into the argument I had with one of my neighbours on the day Mercury retrograde hit. Maybe that's for next time. It was absolutely, I was diabolical, let's put it that way. But that mixed with lunar eclipse energy, seasonal shifts, it has been a bit wild. And a lot of people have, I've seen this with a lot of people around me actually, just in the witchy community, especially because, we're all susceptible to that energy. It's been a lot, mixed with real life work stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been wild, isn't it? It's been absolutely, it has. It's been, I am really feisty at the moment. I know I sound reasonably calm, but actually, internally, I'm desperately feisty.
Oh, well, that's something for us all to look forward to. So,
I know.
that said, while you're in feisty mode, shall we get on with today's topic then? Curses, hexes, and ethics in witchcraft. And this is one of those topics that always comes with a little bit of controversy because different practitioners do lean into this in completely different ways. However, From our three perspectives, I think we're pretty aligned, but I guess we'll find out as we go down this little rabbit hole. So, Anon, what do you think the definition is, or what is your definition of sort of curses, hexes, and what do you think that means to you in your practice?
A hex for me is something that is often temporary. It's more of an inconvenience, a disruption. Maybe something that you send to teach that individual a lesson, so to speak. A curse is more theoretically potentially lifelong. It's life disruptive. It can be placed on the land, a person, animals, both of which have a lot of intention behind them, both of which have a lot of focus behind them and a lot of energy. Whether you want to consider doing workings like that, I think from my point of view, do you give permission to do this in your practice? And at the end of the day, if you do, your practice is not up for debate by anyone. And primarily, if we are going to go down this route theoretically of practicing hexes and curses, they are very few and far between. They are not done regularly. And usually, if they are done, they are not talked about.
Yeah, so it's a really good point actually, because our practice is our own, and that's where we want to be really clear here that we're giving our advice as it comes through, but ultimately you have to make that judgment for yourself. So hopefully we can inform you a little bit of that. And do you know what? I think it's the same for me, Anon. I see a curse and a hex exactly how you described it, and I think, but there are some practitioners that interlink both of those terminologies, so they will use the same terminology and meaning the same thing as well. So it's good to give that definition. A curse is a longer lasting piece of justice magic. A hex can be shorter lived, and then you've got a jinx as well, which is just, make sure your socks fall off in your shoes all day, please, because you annoyed me. That kind of
Get
stuff.
the kids stock
Sorry,
happening.
I see that all over social media. I see other witches post like these memes of going, I wish that your socks would just fall down in your shoes. I've never done that to anybody, but it is such a great way to piss somebody off, right? It would really annoy me.
How would that annoy you, no?
Oh, it
How
is.
would that
So when I'm
really?
walking the dog, and if my socks are falling down in my wellies, oh, it's the most annoying thing. Like a bunched up sock. You got a bunched up sock in your welly. It is so annoying.
That could actually be me doing that to you.
I
Yeah.
know. I've just thought of that. You said you were in a cranky mood.
I
Nothing like
did.
trying to.
I did.
But so do you feel the same about it in terms of its definition then, Vic?
Yeah, I think curses are a bit more long-standing. They're much more broad. Justice work, a lot of it is about justice. And when people feel that they're not empowered in a situation and that it needs to be a longer format almost, it's a bit of the difference between short form content and long form content almost. Your hex is a bit more of a short form content, a bit more of an irritation, a bit more specific, and less on the lasting side of things. And I agree with Anon as well. I will not judge somebody who uses that form of practice. I have done, I will do. I'm very much for balance. Very much for balance. So that is both sides of things. That said, I think if you are going to do that, maybe don't do it all the time. It's really exhausting. Maybe have a think about it before you do it and know why you're doing it rather than just being irritated. Have some ethics. That would be my advice to somebody.
Yeah, and that's a really good piece of advice. And I think it's also worth noting, if you're big on social media platforms, what we tend to see now, rather than the word curse or hex being used, is this justice-based magic being used. And it's especially so because platforms tend to block videos where you're talking about curses, hexes. So people have preferred to use justice in place of that. But it is also a valid way to describe it, because again, this is coming back to what we want to do in our personal practice. But if we want to make sure somebody's getting justice for what they have done, and we feel like that, like you said, Vikkie, the balance is correct in doing so, therefore it's justice-based magic, and it isn't that we're just cursing somebody because we are, jokes aside, pissed off for today. Because that's not how witchcraft should work in any case. We shouldn't be driven by our emotions. We should be driven, well, I'll rephrase that. When we've got high emotions, we shouldn't be driven to do magic on the basis of that. We should take a level approach and balanced approach on what we do next, whether that's coming from a loving place or an angry place. If you're angry, jumping straight into doing hex magic or curse magic or something to do with justice, you're not leaning into it in the right way. That would be my cautionary tale. You know, anger has a place. It's absolutely valid. Every emotion we should be feeling and using. But anger is a really good energy to use within magical practice. But when it's misdirected and used then in a practice in order to feel like we're getting justice, it needs to be leveled out a little bit. But we'll talk about that more when we come into, I guess, the ethics of it. And maybe you two do disagree. Maybe if you're angry, doing some justice magic is exactly what you should be doing.
I think you can use your emotions in any spell work. You should be using your imagination, your emotions, your feelings within it, because otherwise you're just mixing herbs together, aren't you? When you've been practicing, I was going to say a long time, but actually there's new practitioners who are really good at this. Just be a bit balanced. Just know why you're doing stuff. And loads of new practitioners are really, really good at that. What I will say, though, is emotions are a human thing. And cursing and hexing has been written about and found in archaeology for a really, really long time. Look at the Greek curse plates. Loads of them were found, mostly about business justice and love dealings. So you can look those up if you're interested. And also,
we've got one in Wales. One's been found in Wales.
You found a Greek curse plate. That is awesome.
Yeah, in Caerleon. I think it was somebody, oh, I'm going to forget it now, but I think somebody was invoking Nemesis.
Okay.
Because somebody had stolen, I think it was shoes and a cloak. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only one that's been found in Wales.
I love it even more because somebody stole a cloak. Like, of all the witchy things, like they stole a cloak, so they're trying to curse them. That is absolutely epic.
Also, if people are worried about how evil as such, or what are we, what a curse is evil, etc. Look at it as justice. It's even in biblical, it's in biblical texts. So actually, there are curses in the Psalms. So if you're interested and you sort of want to get on a bit of a rant with it, actually Psalms 109 and Psalms 137 are really good examples. But there are actual curses in the Bible. So it's about justice work.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's where I guess my education's not fully detailed. I don't know a lot of the historical context around justice-based magic. Practitioners coming into the craft who believe that what they have to do is, first of all, go into a baneful type situation in order to balance out any injustice that they've had in the past. I don't believe that's the right way to approach witchcraft. I believe it does have its place, but it is pushed forward as a more preferential way of doing witchcraft, and therefore it can not only demonize it, but it can push certain practitioners away because they're like, well, actually, witchcraft isn't for me because all they're doing is hexing and cursing, and which isn't true, right? It's like that isn't the basis of it. And I went to a witchcraft festival last year, which I'm going to again this year with lots of witchy folks. You'll see all that over social media. But I sat next to a lady who'd been practicing for a couple of years, and we went to a baneful magic workshop together. It was with who was it? I think it was the Ginger Witch actually on socials. She was heading it up, and this lady sat next to me, and I don't remember her name, but she was like, oh, but it all comes back to you. Like this, when you do this magic, it's going to bounce back, and you know what you know, like the karma effect, or the modern version of what people think karma is. And I said, are you Wiccan? Because I know Wiccan beliefs, not necessarily karma, but they believe in that threefold law where it comes back to you. And she's like, no, I'm not a Wiccan. And I said, but what you need to start doing is investigating what the balance of energy means for you. Because if you truly understand the balance of energy and there's no good or bad and everything's got cycles, how on earth can something come back to you when you're doing it for the right reasons. So she was really receptive, but she was also very, very fearful about what baneful magic was. And that's why she joined in that lesson at that festival, which was really helpful. But there is this concept or preconception that I guess the Wiccan beliefs and the more modern beliefs about this threefold law. I mean, I'll probably let one of you speak about this, but what do you think, Anon, about the threefold law? Is it something you prescribe to, and karma and all of it bouncing back?
No. I've got a simple answer for you now, isn't it? I've got quite a controversial, I think, view on it. I might be wrong, but it's my opinion. I think this idea is relatively new-ish with regards to, and I loathe this idea of, are you a bad witch? Are you a good witch? Black, white, right? Because everyday magic involved balance. And I think it comes from a mix of religion, social mixing to a point. And I would say primarily a lot of it was from the medieval history. This idea that magic is evil, working with any energy other than this one major energy or God was evil. Conversing with spirits was demonized. Witches gained their power from the devil. It was described as organized evil in a way. And when we look at the witch trials, primarily a lot of what they were being accused of was baneful working or causing harm to others. Not once, I don't think anyway, was anything ever mentioned about all the good, nourishing work they did within that community. And I think in the 1900s, as much as there was this big religious and spiritual shift that tried to reclaim witchcraft or nature-centered, spiritual movements like Gardner, but you also had this caveat to it, harm none. This idea that justice or baneful working has consequences. And it does, but I think as much as they were highlighting witchcraft again, they also, I feel, had an undercurrent within it that said witchcraft can also be very evil as well. It can be bad. So I think because of that, there's still a lot of stigma to this day about witches. And we are still asked, I am, when somebody finds out I'm a witch, I am still asked to this day, am I a white witch or a black witch?
Yeah, I absolutely get that, and I agree with you. And on the harm none, I don't prescribe to it. I don't prescribe to it. I prescribe to balance. There is balance in nature. There is balance within elements. There is balance. Not everything is all light and airy fairy. Yeah, we all live real lives. What I think there is responsibility with what you do, and I do think if you are going to go down the lines of baneful, I think commit. And if you're going to commit, do it and take responsibility for what you do. Don't push it onto other people. I have done this because of this reason. I know why I've done it.
And when you say you take accountability for it, do you think it's important when we do this kind of magic, to keep it private to ourselves? I mean, generally speaking, magical practices should be kind of a personal act. But do you think it's more important when it's baneful magic, or do we think it's just as important?
So for me, if I was going to do something baneful, that is a large work-in. And when I do large or ritualistic work-ins, that is private to me. I think that's the easiest way to answer it. If I'm going to show a money bowl on social media, fair enough. I'm going to show people how to do that and then we can talk about it. It's not that I'm gatekeeping. It's just if I'm doing rituals for me personally, they are my personal practice.
And it's really important actually, because, well, any ritual, but particularly when
Mm.
we're talking about justice magic as well, it's like that protection mechanism as well. You protect the spell, you protect the energy, you protect yourself. Um, it's not just about doing the baneful magic, like you say, the accountability factor there. there's layers to it, which are really important.
Yeah, I think accountability is really, really important, but that's within everything that you do. That's just within life. So do I find it different for ritualistic work or spell work? No. No, if I go to the shop and I shoplift something, then I need to take accountability. Can I sit with myself for that? If I say something mean to somebody, I need to take accountability. Can I live with myself for that? It's exactly the same with any form of craft that I personally practice.
And do we think that there's consequences to our actions?
I think there's consequences to every action that you take in life generally. That's a bit of a broad spectrum, isn't it?
No, it is. And I realized how, and as I was saying it, I went quiet because I was thinking about a post I seen today from Mutual in America about not necessarily the consequences, but about doing money magic. And when we ask for things blindly within our magical practice, we need to expect that sometimes the results happen in different ways than we anticipate. And spiritual practice is like that anyway. When we ask for a message, we don't always get that message directly how we expect. And it's the same when we're, I guess, creating or doing a magical spell or spell work. I'll rephrase that, doing a magical spell, doing spell work. And like if we're asking for money, and that could come by means that we're not expecting. We could lose our job and get a redundancy payment, or somebody could die and we get an inheritance. I mean, they're quite extreme examples, but that's how the balance works. And likewise, if we're going to do a curse on somebody in order for them to feel the effects of perhaps, I don't know, we'll use something long and put needles in it because they're a man and we want something to happen, we have to expect that those consequences then can come back and impact us in different ways that we weren't necessarily anticipating. And I can't think out loud what that would be. And I'm thinking of a very specific type of spell work, but what I'm saying is when we do this, we have to really think about um the reason why we're doing that spell work, what that intention is, and expect the results to sometimes not be how we anticipate.
Absolutely, because what we're doing, in essence, is we are manipulating energy. It's let loose, that is now free to go and do what it's going to go and do. So I can do that chaotically, if you like. I can do that with grounding and with forethought. Before I let that go, I want to be very, very specific with what I'm doing. And also that's where I say take accountability. Can I live with myself?
Now, see, I would put a clause on it. Theoretically, if I was to do any form of that type of working, I would put a clause on it where I could dissolve it at any moment if I wanted to. Because I think with this type of working, if I was to do it, I would have to really take a lot of time to consider all options, think outside the box. If this person is the main breadwinner of the home, if everything, fell to pieces, the car broke down, the job loss, are there innocents involved? Are there children within the house? And how much of my working could affect others? So it would have to be very targeted. I think there may be a point for me where I would get a bit of witch's guilt, potentially. So for me, I think I would always have to have a clause on it per se, where if I think, right, enough's enough, then I could dissolve that as and when needed, theoretically.
That's a really good point, because then this leans back into where beginners should be starting or focusing their energy and their spell work versus more experienced, because understanding how to put a clause into a spell as well as deliver it with the intention and have all of the morals to sit comfortably with what you're delivering takes experience. And I'm not saying that every beginner to witchcraft should be fearful of making the steps that they feel is just, but actually, some things do need more time to sit comfortably with us as practitioners. And it shouldn't be the first thing that we're jumping to when we go, right, okay, witchcraft is for me. They've all fucking wronged me. I don't like them. This is the way I'm going to go. And justice magic is where I'm going to be sitting with that. And I guess every practitioner is absolutely different. I would just err on the side of caution, because all of those things we've talked about the accountability, about being measured, having a clause or a contract in order to reverse that if we feel it's not gone right, takes experience or a level of understanding. I don't know. That's kind of my view. I'm not telling anybody how to practice, but actually, I think it's really important that you have that level of experience, because you're right, Anon. I would usually put some sort of reversal magic within it as well. And that's why, Vikkie, you said this isn't a small piece of spell work. This takes time. It's a big
Well,
spell
yeah,
work.
and this is it. So I'm different from you two. I will not put a clause on it. If I send something
You
out,
are in a bad mood, though. I
I
mean,
told you I was feisty today.
there is no clauses. I'm putting it out there.
I'm just
Oh.
gonna, yeah, if I'm gonna set something to fly and I actually think it is needed, it takes a lot, a huge
Yeah,
amount for me to know or to think, to feel that that is needed. I
yeah.
have done it a couple of times in my life and they absolutely were needed. And was there a clause? Absolutely not. Justice is deserved. It was needed. It's done its job. Thanks very much. There you go. That protection for me. And it was based on a protection that was required. So, no, I wasn't putting out protection work. It was baneful magic. Did I do that in the heat of the moment? No. Did I
Mm.
consider other workings first? Was I aware of what I was doing? Absolutely. Did I think it was just? Yes. Do I regret it? No. And that sounds like a really strong stance, doesn't it? However, like I say, that isn't something I would go to first. I might do a binding first or another version before I would even reach that stage of doing it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because there is a lot of magic that we can do ahead of jumping straight to curses and hexes. And
Oh,
binding
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
one of them. Banishing is another. I lean quite heavily, actually, in my practice. A lot of my spell work is about shedding things that are holding me back. And that can be personal or other people's energy as well, rather than going, that fucking arsehole, I'm going to do some hex work on him or her. I will focus what I need to banish or what's holding me back first, because it's had that energetic effect on me. But that's the way that I deal with my magical practice, because I won't jump into hex work immediately. And I will say now, I don't think I've ever done a curse. I have done hex is a few, but I also understand that they're not long term, and it's not. But curse work is something very considered. And you two are older than me, and you've been doing it longer than me,
We're
so
old and
I'm
wrinkly.
not.
yeah.
I'm not
Oh
older
no,
than
you're
you.
not. Damn it. You're not. You're younger than me. Damn it.
Watch yourself there,
Do you know
Gayle.
what? But do you know what? The listeners don't know that, because you're anonymous. She's older than me. For the sake of this podcast, you'll never know. But yeah, I don't think I've ever done a curse, but I've definitely done hexes. Do you do other magic when you're in that headspace, Anon? Like I said about banishing or cord cutting, would you focus on the way that you're viewing the situation rather than the situation itself?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like what you were saying and Vicky was saying earlier, it's so important to lean into our emotions, into our anger, into our frustration. That's what makes us human at the end of the day, but it's not okay to live there. It's not okay to sit in that energy, but absolutely lean into it. For me, I would say a lot of my workings anyway, I give myself time leading up to it. Any form of working, whether it's for self-love or something positive, I will sleep on it because I'm a firm believer by the next day, I would have allowed some natural time for my energy to find its own form of equilibrium. I can journal it, I can discuss it internally about why I feel I want this type of working and why. Do some form of reflection. Yes, ad hoc workings have been done in the past, but the way I'm practicing now, I would say I always give myself time to reflect on it and consider it.
It's not a normal everyday thing. It's a really considered, really rare thing to do.
Yeah.
really rare thing to do. I am going to do all the other stuff first. Have I cast a curse? Yes.
I love that you stand by your decisions because absolutely every witch should. And having a get out clause, I think, again, it's that experience thing. Not to rub it in again, but you've been practicing a little while longer than I have. So maybe that's why I still have that. Right. If this goes horribly wrong, I need to get out. But going back to, do we do it often? It's like we see all over social media going, oh, you're cursed. And the amount of questions I get in my DMs going, I think I've been cursed and da 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 da. I think my ex's mother has cursed me. And I'm like, but why do you think that? Like you say, people aren't going around just throwing curses and hexes. And I mean, there are ways of throwing baneful shade, which is probably more of a jinx, if anything else. But if you truly believe that that's the case, like, why? Like, who's out there
Yeah.
doing that all of the time? Like, it's just not.
They
But,
are
but
huge. They're very huge work-ins. I mean, they don't have to take hours and hours, but they have to be considered. They have to be considered why. And if you're going to do one, I think commit. Absolutely commit. But I am going to do 100 other things first to rectify the situation within myself and how I feel about it.
social media is great at doing all of
Yeah.
the theatrics, right, and making it look amazing. I see way more, especially on Tickety Talk. I see way more baneful workings than anything else. On other platforms, not so much. I see a lot more around money magic, around sort of Insta and
It's
Facebook.
clickbait.
It is
It's
clickbait, absolutely.
it's
And it,
clickbait. Everybody likes a black candle dripping over something and go,
yeah,
oh, it's a hex, or it's I've been cursed. And actually, a lot of what people think, I mean, don't get me wrong. 2 weeks ago, I had that blooming norovirus, felt terribly ill, and I believe I said to you two, "Who's hexed me?" Um, but look, I had a virus. You
yeah.
know, sometimes you just have bad luck. Actual true curse work is big stuff and not to be taken upon lightly. And I don't think it's actually that usual.
And I would say, if anything, you're more likely to come across unintended workings. People that might be jealous, that kind of evil eye aspect. But I think this is why we do promote protection and having the wards, because I would say a lot of people would probably come across something unintended rather than what Vikkie was saying, like a curse or like a hex, because they are so far and few in between. But then I do worry about what's out there on social media, people who are new to this practice, having access to all of this information and thinking, oh, I'll just hex my ex then.
The hexing stuff on TikTok is so accessible and people don't necessarily know what they're doing and that unintended thing.
Well, the most disappointing thing about the stuff that's happening on TikTok and social media when it comes to this kind of work is that there's no education around it. It's saying that this is the way you can do a working when you want to
Mm.
get justice, rather than, like, hopefully what we're trying to do is explain the grounded, balanced approach and the reasons why it is still justifiable, but it has to be taken with a different level of discernment. Whereas on social media, it's going, this is what you want to do if you want to hex your ex. Like, that's not, why would you want to hex your ex? What, they've cheated on you? Okay, so you want to do a cord cutting, shift that energy away from you, move on and find yourself a new love, because that's the
Absolutely.
reality of mundane, but
Yeah.
also of magic and things that you can do that are proactive that you then need to work towards as well. If you're hexing, yeah, you're going to get a brief moment of fulfillment out of that guy who's run off with your best mate. But the reality is, life doesn't work like that. So you have to, like you've been saying and explaining articulately, it is about that balance.
There are platforms that make it very accessible of you put X, Y, and Z together, you hex your X because you want to get back at them. Why even put that energy into them? Why?
100%.
Well, I'm not going to put my energy into someone who's annoyed me or who
No.
has done me wrong in a minor instance. That's down to me to sort out. Walk away from it. There is a block button. There is a scroll button. I don't need to talk to my ex. I need to have nothing to do with them. I can do that on a mundane thing.
And let them run off into the sunset together. Ta-da!
Absolutely,
Off
go for
you,
it.
off you trot.
Go
Because
for
I'm
it.
telling you now, there was a rhyme and reason for those people being taken out of your life. And yeah, you're going to be upset about it. Yeah, you'll be angry about it, but don't give them any ounce more of your energy than what you've already put into something that wasn't going to work anyway.
Absolutely. I wholly agree. I wholly agree with it because why would I? Why would I give anybody who's harmed me any of my energy? Now, I say that having cast a curse. I'm not even going to go into why it, but that was very a very serious matter. It was, as far as I'm concerned, justified and it protected other people.
Yeah.
That is not an annoyance. That is not something that the legal justice system could deal with, or therapy could deal with, or anything else could deal with. And that was why I put my energy into it.
Yeah, I think there are different levels for people, which we won't go into, about, harm that has been created. And like I said earlier, I think if someone can accept that form of working and can sit in that working and something awful has happened to them and that's what they want to do, then I will not judge that person for doing that.
No, and that's really important actually, because there isn't any judging and everybody is entitled to practice exactly how they want to practice. I guess just from a personal perspective for me, my empowerment and being a witch is also about understanding my own emotions and how I can, I guess, shape my own reality to some extent. And the inconveniences of life, or I had an argument with my neighbour about parking. He was completely out of order. He was completely wrong. But I'm never going to hex the guy. One, I'm going to step back and go, shit, I shouldn't have behaved that way. What has made me react? I know what it was. It was to do with my son. So instinctively, all of my emotions came to the surface. Two, that poor older gentleman has been sat on his emotions for ages. Me hexing him isn't going to change a thing apart from inflate the situation. He needs to deal with his emotions. And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but there's mundane things that happen every single day. Our ex is dump us, or we get cheated on, we have a row with somebody in the street, but all of that doesn't require a huge amount of our energetic resources to then direct um, justice magic towards it. But equally, for those that feel like that is the way that they want to perform their magic, I don't judge that either. And I'm always really open and interested to see how people practice as well. But just for me, from a personal perspective, the empowerment for me coming to understand how I can then understand my emotions more fully, do things in the mundane that help me be a better witch and a better person, but also any magical practices that I need to do in order to understand why my emotions may be impacting certain situations, not always hexing.
Yes, I will work that way, but it's so rare. So, so rare. I am more likely to go and plant a plant and go and deal with myself.
But is it a poisonous plant?
Well, we're not. Most of
Out
what I
come,
grow is,
out comes the
like
belladonna.
soothing.
I'm
I
not
have
hexing. What are you on about? This isn't a hex. This is a beautiful plant.
this is a
You
very
have some in your
gorgeous
tea.
plant. I would rather deal with me on a balanced side of things. I don't want to spend my life thinking about all of that. I would
Yeah.
rather go and, I don't know, plant some vegetables that I can share with my neighbours. In all
Yeah.
seriousness, I'm not a love and light person because I'm a balanced person, but I do err on the side of kindness and trying to understand other people with empathy. Um, there are some people who just require that not to happen to them.
So, in reality, every witch approaches curses, hexes, and the ethics differently. Today, we've shared some grounded, lived perspectives without the theatrics and hopefully without the fear and definitely without the nonsense. So, let us know what you think. And as always, drop any questions you have. And that leads us on to our come sit with us segment where this week we've got a question from Emily on my Patreon, and she's asked the question about how do we find balance between work and belief, because she's trying to be more calm, but often finds that work impedes that. So, what do we do to cope with our spiritual side and our witchy side versus our work and our mundane life?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been absolutely hectic, absolutely hectic. How have I fitted it in? I haven't made time specifically for any really big work-ins, so I have stuck with the little stuff, stirring the coffee, making sure I'm looking after myself. Do you know what? Life does life. It gets absolutely blooming hectic, and it's that lived. This is a terrible answer. It's the lived practice thing that I'm doing it on a daily basis.
That isn't a terrible answer because we did cover that in a previous podcast, but I think the reality is with this kind of question, it leans back into witches or new practitioners or any practitioner. I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody, but it's believing that you have to be a witch 100% of the time. And we're always walking around being spiritual and doing everything witchy all of the blooming time, when actually that's not how this human existence works. Our witchcraft is part of who we are, how we move, how we drink our coffee, the clothes I put on every day, the jewelry I pick. So when we're trying to find that balance between work and belief, I always believe, but then I always work too. So my belief, I'll just come back to it. It may be a day, it may be at the end of the day, it might be in the morning, but it might be 2 weeks later after I'm just about to hex my scaffolders because they won't leave my house. Is that right, Vikkie? Don't
Yeah,
hex.
absolutely. When they
Or
start
just give them
stomping
a
around,
jinx where the sock falls down in their shoe because it is well annoying.
I mean, clearly because clearly because I curse people. Yeah. Um, no, no. I mean, this is the thing. Look, life does its thing, and life is annoying, and life takes up a lot of time. Some of the time, it can really get in the way. Um, but it's the little things. It is the little things. There's little daily practice things that you can sort of say, oh, actually, I'm going to stir my coffee this way today. Or I don't know, I'm going to go and just look at that flower for 2 minutes amongst the dust and the debris and all the hideousness. Um, it's difficult because it is just who I am. So it's difficult for me to try and answer. But it's okay to not be witchy the whole time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. What about you, Anon? How do you find the balance?
Oh, oh, I'm witchy all the time, man. Nothing's stopping me. No, I guess I have learnt over the years work can be heavy at times. And when I leave that doorway in work or when I'm commuting, that is my time when I am mentally switching off from work. And I allow myself to do that. I think it's understanding, like for me in my practice, magic is interwoven within my day-to-day living. And, I work full time. I'm a single mum of two. I'm a carer. I listen to my body first. But a practice that looks, quote unquote simple is not less powerful or potent. Yeah, there might be times where I can do more of a ritualistic form of working, where I do have the time and the energy to collect the items that I need, etc. However, for me, a conversation with the spirits, a small lit tea light is just as powerful, or small acts throughout the day, breath work, cleansing by washing your hands, or noticing nature. To me, all of that is part of my magical practice. I think my main one is when I leave work, I have mentally left work.
You're right. It's not only is it just part of who I am, but I've had a particularly hard week this week. But when I find I'm stressed or um, there's too much going on, my witchcraft is the thing that brings me back to center. So
Yeah.
I can always lean into that when it's a stressful conversation or I've had a really, really tough meeting. I just take 2 seconds. It doesn't take a lot, and it's just recentering, regrounding, lighting a tea light, putting on some incense, talking to one of my plants. I'll have to tell you about this in next week's episode, but one of my plants died this week. Um, I'm not
Oh
happy about it.
no.
It was
Ooh.
well, the energy was sucky, so it taken its brunt, and I wasn't giving the nice energy back, and it took all the bad energy, so it's my own fault. So, but those type of things is what I come back to time and time again. Work stressful. I can look at my ring and I know that I put on a ring full confidence today. So if I'm feeling like I'm not, you know, holding my own in a meeting, I can just hold that for a second and it's on my body. So, like
Yeah.
you said, it's just part of my entire being. I've got something on me or around me, or I am, and I
Mm.
come back to myself, or I breathe, or
I was just wondering now about, perhaps where that question has come from. And we have had similar questions. Do you think that some people view magical practice as something that's very different, very specific, very shifted out of a normal day-to-day living? Do you think people view it as I have to alienate it from my day-to-day world?
Do you know what, Anon? That was exactly what I was going to say.
We're
Not
aligned,
necessarily in
Vic.
your, yeah, not necessarily in those words, but that was the sentiment of what I was going to say. It's easy for us to say, well, we just live it. But if you're new and you're trying to take notice of what you're doing, well, where do I find time to do that? Because I need to do this breath work and it's going to take half an hour. And we're, I think, so used to doing it, we can do it in a split second because we're used to doing it. So I think my advice would be take 3 breaths over the you've had a terrible time in the office, go to the coffee room, put your feet on the ground, relax your shoulders, take 3 deep breaths right into your stomach. It takes a split second. And and then notice what your body's doing. But what it's actually doing is it's grounding you. And it's getting you used to doing these things on a daily basis, a daily practice that we actually do on a daily basis isn't giant, massive stuff. And we're trying to demystify what we're actually doing, what counts as witchcraft.
and that might be the other reason that this question was asked, right? It's like, well, witchcraft is a separate thing and it's not. It's part of your everyday. You've just got to blend it in however it works for you. And breathing is it's not a new age, it's a fundamental part of what we do. And breathing and coming back to ourselves and grounding just recenters us. And like you say, you can feel into it, but equally it's like all of the little things. So don't try and don't try and separate the two. Thank you for listening to Between Three Witches, Witchcraft in Plain Sight. If this episode resonated, you're welcome to sit with it, share it, or let it unfold in its own time. You can find me, Vikkie, and Anon on all the social media platforms, and I'll leave it in the show notes if you want to find us there. Until next time, may your practice meet you exactly where you are.